Till there are men, women, sex, wives, husbands, jokes on marriage, jokes on infidelity, jokes on Masti are always going to work. Right? If I look back, maybe I should give him screenplay credit, along with Mushtaq and me, because when he added that, right, he changed his character. It's the same, bro. Rosemary Marlowe, my father-in-law used to crack it, we've cracked it. So the failure of Satyameva Jayate taught me a few things, which with that I'm not always right. For me, only the box office matters. Nothing else matters. It's a business. The reviews and critics are not important. For me, the audience is the ultimate critic. Mohit Suri, who's a very dear friend, when he saw the film, he told me, if you had not made him say sorry in the pre-climax, I would have hated the film. He's saying, the moment he said sorry, I clapped. He's saying, done.
Hi, this is Milap Zaveri. You're watching me on India Forums.
Subscribe and hit the bell icon to never miss another update from India Forum.
Hi everyone and welcome to India Forums. This is Kaante. And you know what? Usually we come up with these terms that I give adjectives to my guest. And of course, rightfully so, they all deserve it. But right now, let's just say mega blockbuster and all those kind of adjectives. And the man who has created that, one of them, out of nowhere, mind you that, is none other than Milap Zaveri sitting with me. Hi Milap.
Hi Kunal, thank you. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure entirely. Yeah. And I'll start. Of course, we're going to have some tough questions. And I know that the best thing I like about you is that you are self-aware. You're self-aware in a way that you are ready to get those questions. You are ready to answer them. But unless and until it's not condescending, right? Because the moment you try to get a headline, I think that's a problem. Yeah. So we're going to steer clear of that. And I really wanted to actually understand your take to everything that goes on, that all the wrath, all the madness and everything else. So I'll start with a funny parallel that I was coming up with. I was talking to a friend the other day who's also a critic, and I love it. I was talking, I told you also right now that the moment someone says that you cannot make a certain kind of film, is a problem bigger than the kind of film that you've actually made, right? So I was actually telling that, right now I think there is like a parallel between you and Sandeep Reddy Vanga, because we also get this all the time. The moment he makes a film, that how can you make such a film like that? Do you even remotely agree with this parallel right now?
First of all, it's an honor to be compared to Sandeep. I'm a huge fan of his work. Both the films, Kabir Singh and Animal, I absolutely loved both of them. And to quote a line from Ek Deewane Ki Deewaniyat, Meri marzi hai, right? Everyone should have an opportunity, should have a right to make what they want to make, right? Long as they're not physically hurting someone or they're not, torturing someone, they should have a right to make what they want to make, whatever cinema it may be, right? Whether you make a Haq, whether you make a Deewaniyat, whether you make an Animal, whether you make a Shrikant, whether you make a Sayyara, whether you make a Gadar too, right? Every kind of genre, cinema, I feel deserves to be made, and it is the conviction of the filmmaker, and it's his taste, his choice, and every filmmaker eventually, even if they deny it, right, and they say, I'm making my kind of film, everyone wants to make films for an audience.
Of course.
Yeah, if no one's going to watch your film, right, how are you going to get any validity, or how are you going to understand what you did right or what you did wrong, right? The whistles and the claps teach you as much as the boos and the taunts and the jeers, right? Everything teaches you something or the other. Yeah.
No, true. I agree with you there. And whenever people also to keep talking about this, that there's a certain kind of cinema that appeals to X amount of people and Y amount of people. I do believe, despite being a critic myself, I do believe, and it's fine if I'm not going to be agreeing with a film or something like that, but I am going to respect the fact that if 10,000 people are going to be agreeing with it, I need to respect it.
Yeah.
You can keep talking about, what, but that's dictates about men's ideologies in the society and all that stuff. That doesn't never to be the fact, because if you talk about influential cinema has been influencing since 50,000 years.
Yeah.
Like that. What I want to know from you here is that you actually, people who don't know, you've been there for 25 years almost. I'm saying 25 years for you, it's actually 23 years here.
Yeah. But there were a couple of years before that when I was trying to get in.
Exactly, right. So you started with the writer as Ye Mohabbat Hai.
Ye Mohabbat Hai and Kaante, same year.
Exactly. And that is where I think is interesting for me, because the kind of films that you wrote were so varied. Like I remember Kaante, then I remember, of course,
Jhankar Beats,
Jhankar Beats, one of my all-time favorite films.
Masti,
Masti. That's what I'm saying.
Musafir.
The four films that you mentioned are completely different.
Completely different, yeah.
So what I want to know from you is, when you wrote those films, of course this is early years,
correct.
how much was that for you, coming to you naturally, or more was it like a part of your job, because you are also doing a job as a writer
Correct.
and getting money? How much was that?
So I didn't get much money in the early days, and it was actually it was a passion, because I grew up watching films. I was obsessed crazily about movies.
Yeah.
Initially, obviously, till my 10th, 11th standard was Hindi films, only Hindi films, right? And I had like 5 video cassettes at home that we owned.
Right.
There was Sholay, Jai Santoshi Ma, Vidhata,
Yeah.
Chalti Ka Naam Gaadi, and Daku Hasina.
Stellar. I
So-
love that lineup.
So you see the variety of cinema I grew up watching. I was a huge fan of Mithun Da,
Yeah.
Jitendra sir, Amit ji, obviously. I mean, because my grandmother, my ba, Sushila Zaveri was obsessed with Amitabh Bachchan sir. So obviously that passed on. So I grew up watching those films. Then I went to Jai Hind College. I wrote over there for Malhar, and there was an inter-school competition called Copwood.
Yeah.
It used to happen at Bharati Vidya Bhavan, and I won best writer there. And I was 19 when I met Sujoy Ghosh
Right.
and Umesh Mehra. Umesh Mehra sir had made International Khiladi, Khiladi Ka Khiladi, Sabse Bada Khiladi, and so many Ali Baba Chalis Chor, so many big films, And I met him thanks to Vivek Vaswani, who introduced me to Umesh ji. And I met Sujoy also in a way through Vivek Vaswani,
Lovely.
right? Because it was very funny because I met Sujoy and Rajiv Masal through Vivek Vaswani, and Rajiv was originally supposed to be part of Jhankar Beats as a co-producer,
Co-producer.
and then he was with Bombay Times at that time,
Yeah.
and the journey began from there. And I just loved movies. I was obsessed with movies. I didn't know anything else. I didn't know what else to do. And then it's so weird that it's actually Sujoy also in a way so it's a chain reaction, right?
Yeah.
Sujoy recommended me to Sanjay Gupta. Because Sujoy was initially working on Kaante.
Right.
Then Sanjay Gupta, Anurag Kashyap was supposed to write the dialogues for Kaante.
Yeah.
Anurag and Gupta had a fallout.
Yeah.
Gups, I call him Guruji, he was 10 days away from shoot. And he needed someone to write the dialogue.
Okay.
And he asked Sujoy something. Sujoy recommended me. I met Sanjay Gupta, and he gave me like a couple of scenes to write. I wrote them overnight, went the next day, narrated to him, and he said he called his production person Hussain Bhai in and said, give him 21,000 signing, and he's doing Kaante.
Lovely.
I was 20 years old,
Oh my God.
right? And
then 20,000 then.
20,000 then, which was a lot at that time for me. And I was 21, and I was around 21 when Kaante released. Right, it was same year Ye Mohabbat Hai released, Umesh Mehra sir gave me,
Correct.
and Kaante released. And touchwood, after that I was addicted. It was like a nasha.
Yes.
Cinema had grabbed hold of me, and I didn't know anything else, and I said this is all I want to do rest of my life.
Super. But what I find particularly intriguing is that when you write such varied concepts, like, I mean, of course, you majorly written dialogues for a lot of films. Sometimes you help out with the screenplay, no matter however the process is. But when you're writing so many varied genres and topics, so to speak, how did it transpire for you to say that when I become a director, because of course I think that's a natural progression that you
Correct.
do so much writing and then you obviously want to become a filmmaker as well. When you become a director, how do you feel that? Do you feel that I have a calling, so to speak? That this is something that I'm probably most passionate about, despite the fact I've written 20,000 different kind of things. And then, of course, Jaane Kahan Se Aaye happened. So, how was that?
So see, I learned something from every filmmaker I worked with. Right, I learned dialogue bazi, style, machogiri from Sanjay Gupta.
Right.
I learned comedy from Indra Kumar and David Dhawan sir.
Yes.
Right. I learned quirkiness from Sujoy.
Super.
Right. So everyone came and taught me something or the other along that journey. I learned comedy and humor with a little bit of emotion from Sajid Khan when I did Hey Baby.
Of course, Hey Baby.
Right. So during Hey Babies, when I always say one of my greatest gifts I got out of Hey Baby was the friendship of Ritesh Deshmukh. Like Ritesh became my Seiji, like my friend for life.
Yeah.
And I then made Jaane Ka Sai, along which I met Nikhil Advani.
Right.
And Nikhil produced Jaane Ka Sai, and then Nikhil and me later went on to do Satyameva Jayate, Marjaavaan, Satyameva Jayate 2. I've actually directed 4 films for him,
Yeah.
right, as him being a producer.
Producer.
So, and when I made Jaane Ka Sai, I want to do something young and bubbly and romantic and cute. Because I just come out of Hey Baby,
Yeah.
so that was the mood, and I worked on Jaane Ka Sai. Then Jaane Ka Sai didn't work, unfortunately. I was in a lull. Shura Walala came my way.
Yeah.
Grand Masti came my way.
Yeah.
Main Tera Hero came my way. Ek Villain came my way.
Yeah.
So as a writer, I got to resurrect myself again.
Correct.
And again, if you look at it, it's just similar people. Sanjay Gupta coming back to help me.
Yes.
Indra Kumar coming back. David Dhawan coming back to rescue me. And then because Grand Masti became this blockbuster, the natural progression was Masti Zade,
Yeah.
right? Which didn't work. Unfortunately, again 2 steps back.
2 steps back.
Then so there was a point now where I felt that maybe I am not going to cut it out as a director.
Right.
Because the 2 films I directed and not worked. My own family, my wife Gauri, she's been my biggest strength. She was like, "Are you sure you want to continue directing? Maybe you just continue writing."
Writing.
But she's kept supporting me. And then I did a short film called Raakh, which was Shad, Randhawa, Veerdas, Richa Chadda. And that was literally me sitting at home with no work and Shad sitting at home with no work, and he's been my childhood friend. He said, let's do something. Let's do something together. And Raakh turned things around again.
Yeah.
It got me respect, certain credibility. It got like a Filmfare nomination for Best Short Film. And then I wrote Satyameva Jayate as a web show called Raakh,
Oh,
which
lovely.
was not able to happen. And then I changed it into a film. And I went and met John. And I narrated to John, and John loved it. And he called Rohit Dhawan, who's one of my closest friends. And Rohit said, no, Rohit, one of the best scripts I've heard Milap has narrated, but his last film failed. And Rohit said, no, John, see this short film he's made called Raakh on YouTube. And John saw it, and John loved it, and John said, okay, I'll do Satyameva Jayate. So because Raakh was dark,
Yeah.
was violent, it led to Satyameva Jayate, right, which was similar.
Similar.
That led to Marjaavaan, that led to Satyameva Jayate 2, right, again which then unfortunately didn't work. Again there was a 3-year gap where I was struggling to get a film together again.
Right.
Then Indra Kumar sir came back as an angel, he and Ritesh,
Yeah.
they offered me Masti 4, and they offered me that, and Masti got a bit delayed. Then Induji gave me Tera Yaar Hoon Main, which I'm launching.
To happen, yeah.
Akanksha Sharma and Aman Indra Kumar, both of them are there. And then Deewaniyat came in between,
Yeah.
and it was, I actually had Deewaniyat since 10 years, the script with me.
Okay.
And there were around 10 heroes who said no, right? And the day Sanam Teri Kasam released on the 7th of Feb this year, the 9th, or that Sunday, I messaged Harsh. And I knew Harsh, I had interacted with him. In fact, he had come and seen Marjaavaan with me in Reddy Galaxy and seeing the madness,
Yeah.
And I did enough dialogues for a film he had done called Miranda Brothers, which Sanjay
Correct. Yeah.
Gupta directed. And I messaged him, said, Harsh, I have this script, I want to narrate it to you. And he said, sir, who's directing? I said, me. He said, sir, he met me that day itself, and he heard it, he said, I'm doing the film. So on his biggest day at the box office, which was the Sunday of Sanam Teri Kasam re-release, he said yes to me in an instant for Deewaniyat, And then I was fortunate that Anshul Garg and Raghav Sharma came our way. They literally came 10 days before the shoot. We had no financiers, no backers, no producers. And we were going to lose Harsh's dates and my dates. So I had to start Masti 4. And they came like almost like saviors at that time, and they took on the film. And then they marketed the hell out of it. We had great music. And now it's so weird that Deewaniyat is like the 3rd biggest super hit of this year after Chava and Sayyara. And it's the biggest hit of my career as a writer or a director, So, and it's weird, I think it's everything is a chain of events that something triggers something else.
I love it. I absolutely love the way you just encapsulated your entire journey from point A to point B in one answer. But swag, I love it. Because it is all about this, right? You have setbacks, you have resurrections, and you have setbacks again, and then you have more resurrections. I think in the end of the day, that of course, these successes are always going to be sweeter than anything
Yeah.
else. And now coming to Diwali, okay, now one thing I find most fascinating, of course we'll primarily talk about Diwali for a couple of questions, is that when Diwali started working, the day one box office was a surprise to so
Yeah,
many. Oh my god, it's getting those numbers, and then it continued. Then the common belief in industry, so to speak, was कि हाँ ये क्यों हो रहा है क्योंकि ये tier 2 tier 3 city की film है. Of course you must have heard like a million
Yeah,
times, right? But the funny thing is that because I did my research and tried to get some numbers, you know what? It's not.
No, it's not.
Mumbai is the biggest contributor to the
Delhi.
collections.
Delhi was-
is the biggest contributor to this collection.
Yeah, yeah.
They are not tier 2 to the
Yeah.
So I want to know from you because I find this very fascinating. The moment something works, people are trying to find those वो छुप के निकालने की कोशिश करते हैं.
Correct,
क्यों चली
correct,
रही है?
correct.
नहीं इसका ये है इसके लिए. How do you look at those things?
We slot people into tier 2, tier 3. They are all human beings, right? They're all human beings. Of course, they have different tastes, they have different stratas of society they come from. Like, I often talk about mass audiences. Like my nickname given to me is Milap Zaveri, right? Because of that. So, but the point is, who is the mass, right? The mass that goes to Gate Galaxy is also mass. The mass that goes to PVR Kurla is also mass. The mass that goes to Roopbani Cinema in Purnia, Bihar is also mass.
Right.
The mass that goes to Raj Mandir, Jaipur is also mass.
Correct.
The mass that even goes to Atria, Worli is mass. Right? Every human being, right, has a certain taste of cinema. A certain film caters to a certain kind of person, right? A Deewaniyat, the funny part is, like, all my career, people who say that, my films only work in single screens.
Yeah.
Deewaniyat didn't have single screens for the first 3 days, right? And it worked across. It's my first film that has worked in plexes, in single screens, in cities, in small towns, in, across the board, right? It has worked lesser than, say, a Thama at the multiplex because I had lesser shows.
Exactly.
Right? If I had equal shows, I would have, been maybe way more than what I had. But, why this victory seems so sweet because it's against all odds. Against all odds. Like, I always say, dark horse होता है this is that dark horse जो दिन में भी दिखाई नहीं दे रहा था किसी को.
Right.
Nobody could see it, right? So when an underdog becomes a bulldog, it's always a great feeling,
Right.
And I must give credit to the conviction that Anshul, Raghav, Aman Gill and Gaurav Verma, distributors, had, and Harsh and Sonam had in the film.
Correct.
Right? I remember it was sometime in June end, July end, when Anshul called me. He had seen the first cut of the film and he told me, "Bhai, रुला दिया आपने." यार मैं रो पड़ा हूँ climax में. So when that confidence came in and that faith came into the film, then automatically, right, everyone was on the same page. We said, like, we have this group called Zakhmi Shades. We all are Zakhmi Shades. Like we had another joke कि लगान की टीम है जो ब्रिटिश के साथ लड़ रही है. It was that. And it was that. I say मतलब दीवानों की एक टोली निकली. That we set out and we achieved it. And see, eventually it was because of the audience, the love of the audience. If the audience doesn't love what you do, you can. Someone told me music and marketing played a big factor. Of course, the music is extraordinary. Anshul curated some great music for the film. But मैंने बोला कि वही music और marketing से तुम सत्यमेव जयते 2 चला के दिखाओ.
Exactly.
तुम नहीं चला पाओगे क्योंकि वो स्क्रिप्ट रॉन्ग थी, वो कहानी रॉन्ग थी, वो डायरेक्शन रॉन्ग था, वो पिक्चर मेरी रॉन्ग थी, राइट? उसको कोई भी म्यूजिक क्या सत्यमेव जयते 2 also had hit music, right? It had मेरी जिंदगी और कुसु कुसु, but it didn't work. The film didn't work, so the film didn't work, So it's as simple as that.
But I love the fact that you, as I mentioned, admit to it in your own ways because, as I mentioned, you're aware, you're self-aware very much so. How do you look at things? Because it's very easy sometimes because there's also this conversation that always persists, right? कि there are so many people say कि अच्छी फिल्म में बहुत अच्छी फिल्म थी लेकिन नहीं चल पाई. Again, a very common sentence that comes across, right? But what are the parameters of those things? Because one can easily say that sometimes it's the lack of awareness कि people लोगों को पता ही नहीं कब release होके गई. Sometimes it's the lack of, let's say, so-called power that people are able to don't even know that okay, this actor even exists. I don't even know that. But then this word of mouth spreads. How do, as a filmmaker who's obviously associated with mass cinema, so to speak, who wants to get the people, the footfalls in theaters? How do you look at this entire trajectory that goes around with films like this?
See, in my opinion ना, जो फिल्म चलती है अच्छी फिल्म होती है. मैं आई एम वेरी क्लियर अबाउट दैट.
Okay.
बुरी फिल्म चल ही नहीं सकती. और अच्छी फिल्म को इवेंचुअली टू गेट इट्स क्रेडिबिलिटी और इट्स अप्रिसिएशन इज नो वन विल स्टॉप यू. Sanam Teri Kasam is one of the best examples, right? It took a long time, but eventually look at the business it did. Andaz Apna Apna, right? Agnipat, the original Amit Ji's film. Eventually, a good film finds its audience, and it may take time because of circumstances, a bad release, etc. You know, things could go off, war, COVID, etc. Right? But eventually, it finds its audience. People who say यार वो बुरी फिल्म थी चल गई. बुरी फिल्म नहीं चल सकती. बुरी फिल्म चल ही नहीं सकती. जो चली है उसमें कुछ तो there's something good in that film, right? Something good in that film. See, what happens is that today, last year there was a film called Shrikant. My own friend Tushar Hiranand directed it, right? It did very well. It did good box office numbers too, despite being so-called a niche film, right? It did great. There's a Sayara, right, which comes and breaks open the box office with two newcomers, you know, a director who again is a friend, Mohit, whose last film had not worked, right? Yes. I call this the year of miracles, right? You had Laila Majnu re-release, you had Sanam Teri Kasam rewriting history in a re-release, you had Sayara becoming a historic blockbuster, you had Narsimha Avatar, you had a Japanese anime film, Demon Slayer going berserk. Right, you have a Deewane Ki Deewaniyat, which is the third biggest hit of the year against the Thama, right? And trust me, you never know, the year is still fresh. You could have more surprises coming up, you know, your way.
We hope Masti 4.
Masti 4, Masti 4, Masti 4. So Masti 4, if you look at it again, is a little bit of an underdog. Because see, Masti 1 was a big hit, Grand Masti was a blockbuster. Masti 3, because it got leaked. It got leaked 20 days before release, right? I remember Ritesh, Aftab, Vivek, Induji went for some event to a college and they screamed ke Masti 4 dekhoge and the crowd shouted like Dekhli. So they were crushed, right? They had a press conference and they cried on stage. So the whole film was leaked. They had to prepone the release in a hurry just to
make sure
to make damage control.
Damage control.
But the damage was done by then, right? So it's actually, in a way, it's a comeback for Masti too. It's a comeback for the franchise and the genre, right? So I mean, I'm really hopeful. I promise audiences who like Masti 1, they're going to have a blast. It is hilarious. See, you may not like it, you may not agree with the humor, it may be offensive, crude, tacky, cringe, but there is a huge audience that loves that humor, who loved American Pie, who loved the Carry On series. You know, they're going to love this. You love Masti. The Masti franchise, or Grand Masti, or Kya Cool Hai Hum, right? They're going to enjoy this movie when they go into the theatre. I know I got enough calls since the trailer came. People are tripping on the horse gag, on the old man in the start. They're tripping on the nipple gag, Shad's nipples, you know, ukhad. So these things are mad, crazy humor. And it has its audience, which I hope come to the theatre and we give them paisa vasool in the theatre.
Fair, no, completely fair. And you know, I'll come back to Deewaniyat now. And one of the scenes that, you know, I was, let's say, shocked by in a way that I never in my wildest thoughts saw it coming was the interval block. I think, and you know, again, I think, you know, again, as I said, it was social media. What? How? Like, how does that even come to one's mind? That, I mean, doesn't that defeat the purpose of the protagonist, the Sonam Majwa's character? Like, oh my god, the fact that she doesn't want to be with him and she's ready to do what she wanted to do. But what I noticed there also is that, you know what, yes, I get it sounds very berserk and stupid in your mind, but she knows that it's never going to happen. I think that's the whole funda of it. She just wants to put in this curveball to make sure that, you know, someone just, like, you know, that happens. But I still want to know, because it fascinates me, how does the mind go there? When you're writing something like this and when you're even acting, because there is so much that, what am I even doing? Is this going to be even, or is this going to create the ruckus that you usually anticipate?
So there's a very funny tweet, I think Anmol Jamwal tweeted that, you know, people worry about AI replacing filmmakers and writers, but AI couldn't come up with the interval twist of Deewane Ki Deewaniyat. So I thought it's a compliment. I was naive enough. So I retweeted it saying, thank you bro, blah blah. Then I was told, guy, it wasn't a compliment, right? But this is exactly the reaction I knew we'll get when the interval comes out. So it again credit goes to Anshul and Aman Gill, who from the start told me do not reveal the interval in the marketing. They said let people be stunned when the film releases because the film was made because of this interval point. And when I narrated the film the first time to anybody, right, when the interval came, like whoa, it was like wow, right? It was so ludicrous and out of imagination, right? Nobody in their wildest dreams could predict. I remember I was in the theater on the first day in Getty Galaxy, and when the interval point came, the theater exploded clapping and whistling, right? They were in shock कि क्या हो गया. But my whole idea of the plot when I was writing it with Mushtaq Sheikh, right, my co-writer, was that a woman has been pushed to a point, to a brink. She's against the wall, right? And she looks at this, suddenly sees this hoarding where she's on there as a superstar. And she realizes that the power, her stardom, her beauty, her oomph has, right? So it will be, when I narrated to few other heroines also, and one of them turned around and told me it's so offensive. Is a woman's body her only strength? And I said, actually, can you do that, something about that interval? I said, the film will be ways. I mean, doesn't make sense me narrating the rest to you. So Sonam luckily got it. Sonam understood. And what you rightly pointed out, the second half she tells Harsh, I won't have to sleep with anyone.
Right.
But the moment someone kills you, he'll be either arrested or he'll be, killed by your supporters. So I won't have to do it. But mera deewana nahi sochega. He'll kill you. Right? See, for me, the biggest challenge of this film was not the interval. I knew the interval was going to fly. I knew public पागल हो जाएगी. मतलब इतना तो मेरे को 1000% कॉन्फिडेंस है कि सीटियां बजेगी थिएटर में और मैडनेस वगैरह में इंटरवल आएगा. My challenge was the climax. My challenge was redeeming Harsh's character. And I must tell you, I give the entire credit to Harshvardhan Rane.
Okay.
Harshvardhan Rane told me when we started the film that he said, I will make this character, however wrong he is, I will make him lovable. So he said, it's in your script that I have troubled the family. मैंने नहीं किया. ऐसा मतलब बट तूने किया है. नहीं, इसे मालिक मैंने नहीं किया है. मैं तो ऐसे ही प्ले करता हूँ मैंने नहीं किया है. He contributed to the writing process. He wrote the backstory. So my script had that line कि मेरे जन्म के वक्त डॉक्टर्स ने बाबा से कहा कि या तो माँ को बचा सकते हैं या बच्चे को. बाबा ने माँ को चुना, मैंने खुद को चुना. He said it's a great line. It shows that I'm so arrogant. He said, but I want to know the backstory. Did my mother really die in childbirth or did she choose to die saving me? Right. And he came up with the backstory. He came up with the backstory of how his father used that against him all his life. Right. And that gave a catharsis to his character. And if I look back, maybe I should have given him screenplay credit, along with Mushtaq and me. Because when he added that, right, he changed his character. He gave me a foot in the door to redeem his character. Correct. Because eventually in the climax of this film, people are coming out crying and sobbing because they love with him also. They want these two to be together. Right? Despite all his toxicity, all his stalker behavior, eventually they want him. See, Yash Ji did this very smartly in Dar. Once Shahrukh wakes up again and says sorry to her. Right? So for me, Mohit Suri was a very dear friend. When he saw the film, he told me, if you had not made him say sorry in the pre-climax, I would have hated the film. Yeah. He's saying, the moment he said sorry, I clapped. He's saying, done. He's saying, ये picture को कोई रोक सकता नहीं because hero ने अपनी गलती मान ली openly लड़की के सामने. So I think the biggest victory of Ek Deewane Ki Deewaniyat is the fact that Harshvardhan Rane made people fall in love with his character. I know a friend of mine was watching it and at the interview she said, oh, you are a creep. In the end he said, oh my god, I love him. So it all changed, right? And that was the toughest thing as a writer, as a director to pull off, for me in this film.
Super, fabulous. And now I get, of course I'll continue with this. And what I think the problem is that no matter how much we say that, okay, you know what, I'll shut out the trolling, I'll shut out the white noise, everything and all those things, of course it still bothers. We human at the end of the day, right? We know that, let's say 5 lakh people have gone and seen the film and like it, but even if 5,000 people are just going to...
Five.
Yeah, I mean, I was just, basically doing the math in a way that but you're right, like five people are going to be talking about it in a way that's relatively influential on social media, so to speak, it hurts. If not anything else, how do you react to this entire thing? With obviously not just with Deewaniyat, but I think overall in general. And do you even read reviews that much anymore, or do you even not even care about it?
No, I read reviews and I react. I try to be calm and humble with them, and even my detractors. So there's Komal Natha sir who didn't like the film, but we invited him for the party, the success party, and he was sporting enough to come for it and be there and post for pictures, etc. And even on Twitter or anywhere, if someone writes something, I always write back saying, "I'm sorry, this time we could not live up to your expectations, but we're grateful that the audiences love the film." See, that is very important. What happens is that you cannot please everyone, okay? And there's a huge section which looks down upon commercial cinema in this country, and they are the usual suspects, right? Some of them, some of them, most of them, I speak very nicely to, I react to. There are a couple of them I don't respect at all, so then I don't interact with them at all, or get into a war of words at all, because उनको खुश करना, they are वो मोगैम्बो जो कभी खुशी नहीं होते, तो उनका कुछ कर ही नहीं सकते आप. So then I just avoid them at that point. But I try to gauge and understand from reviews and all what people have liked, not liked. Maybe it's a learning. It can help you the next time around. I always say, sometimes a failure teaches you more than a success, right? So the failure of Satyameva Jayate taught me a few things, which with that I'm not always right. I'm not God. I don't know my audience perfectly. My audience can turn around and tell me you're wrong. We don't like what you've given us this time, right? And so you have to learn and understand that and adapt yourself accordingly. So as far as trollers and all go, so for a long time, for 3 years, I disabled comments on Instagram because they were nasty and toxic.
Exactly.
But then when the Deewaniyat campaign started, I enabled it again. And yet some people do that. But now I think I'm thicker skinned now, and I'm older, I'm wiser. So I don't really get affected so badly by it. And see, they all have a point of view. How many one I can reply to, I try and reply. And I tell them, go and see it, give it a chance. If you don't like it, okay, next time, we'll try and do better. But the bottom line is the box office. For me, only the box office matters. Okay. Nothing else matters. It's a business. We make films for returns. True. We make films so we can make more films. Right? Mohit and me again chat often. All we and me want is to be able to keep making films. Yeah. We make films not so much for the money, etc. So we make films that हमको काम मिलता रहे. We can keep doing what we love to do, right? And I love to make films, and that's all I know how to do. So for me, box office is very important. If box office works, if my films work at the box office, I get a chance to work again. Right. I get a chance to provide for my family. I get a chance to give them a life that they deserve. So for me, the reviews and critics are not important. For me, the audience is the ultimate critic. Right? They matter to me. Their reaction matters to me. When they whistle and clap at a dialogue or a scene, for me that is enough. That's my 5-star review for me. Right? That's all that matters to me.
And even in a scenario, because after the film was getting all the love, and of course Harsh and Sanam were doing all his tours and everything consistently, even that was like blown out of proportion, where small things were highlighted upon how X person is reacting to certain way and how Harsh is. And I think especially the one thing that specifically stood out in this was that the Indian women won the cricket final, and Harsh posted about it, which was lovely. But he also inserted the box office collection, and it was subject to massive trolling. That why would he do that? And he's this male or whatever.
अगर they had not found that, they would have found something else. लोगों को क्या है बहाना चाहिए और सबको क्या clickbait. Even the normal people want clickbait, right? Everybody wants something to discuss and get on to. See, the love that he has gotten in this road tour of his is ridiculous. Yeah. I've seen it. I was there in Jaipur. Yeah. I was there from Jaipur to Delhi. We traveled. It was pandemonium, right? Yeah. The love. It was mad. There were almost 1,500 plus 1,200 people. Yeah. You don't see that.
Unless you are with the usual superstars.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, this connect now, Harsh's with the common audience. I felt it while shooting Deewaniyat. When I was shooting in Chandigarh and Manali, I could sense the crowds that were coming to see him. Right. I sensed that this boy has gotten some connect this year because of Sanam Teri Kasam, and they are waiting and they are hungry for him. And I was fortunate that I made a film that fed that need. Right? It fed that desire. And I see it's all also how you plan things. And I met him, I was very sure I wanted Deewane to be his next release. So I felt that after Sanam Teri Kasam, this is what they were waiting for. Sanam Teri Kasam, one moment people went crazy on where he crushes the glass. I made him crush the bottle in this. It was planned, it was designed by me as a writer. I said, I want to do this with him in this film. Right? As I said, eventually the noise cancels itself out when the box office numbers come in. Right? Now he signed Force 3 with John, right? And I mean, it's my dream to direct him and John together. Somebody else will fulfill it before me, but it's still my dream. I want to make a film with John and Harsh down the line, and so it's amazing, right? He's getting his due after so many years of being there in the industry. And genuinely, if someone deserves it, it's Harshvardhan Rane who deserves it.
That is Tera. And because I think that love was so reciprocation, was between the both of you was so adorable. And it's also very rare, honestly. I mean, filmmakers love their actors, of course, while they're shooting a film. But it's always, rather, okay, fine, this is itna hi hai, and you move on to other projects. But here, I think it's very organic, and I think it's very...
I mean, I've had it with Ritesh, with John, with Siddharth, a friendship, with Harsh now, a beautiful friendship. Be good. Be a good person. Do your best. Don't unnecessarily hope ill for others. Don't become too arrogant in your success. There are times that I also became. During Satyameva Jayate too, I was arrogant. I thought I knew everything, and I was wrong, and I was proven wrong. Be humble in your success. Be confident in your success. In your failure, don't lose hope. Fight back. Have belief that you can make it. You will meet an Indra Kumar or a Sanjay Gupta or a Harshvardhan Rane or a Ritesh Deshmukh or an Anshul Garg. You will meet people who will come your way and who will help you fight back. Always you will. Yeah.
Super, awesome, lovely. And this one scene, one shot actually in both the scene. Because again, everybody's on Instagram, so they come across this, and more than trolling, it was also kind of a meme that it became. And I will give you my parallel to it, but I'm just curious that what is going to be your parallel. So I'll just show you.
Okay.
I'm sure you.
This just started. Yeah. This just started.
Yeah. So I want to know what is this.
तो ये सदियों से चलता है. ये आज से नहीं हुआ है. सदियों से हीरो के जख्म पे पट्टी है, ऊपर है और खून बाहर निकल रहा है. माथे पे खून निकल रहा है. It's a creative liberty, right? अगर मैं वो दिखाता नहीं तो वो खून नजर ही नहीं आता. तो see the fact that इतने लोग have gone and seen the film. And they've seen this, I'm okay. मुझे कोई problem नहीं है. I was just seen it and laughed. I have laughed about it.
And now I'll give you my parallel to this because मैं वही बोलता हूँ ना कि लोगों निकाला तो कुछ भी निकालते हैं. Everybody keeps talking about Amar Akbar Anthony, and everybody keeps talking about that opening scene with the credits roll. 3 guys are sleeping and उनके उससे vein से उसकी मम्मी में खून जा रहा है. It is stupid. It is.
But the best part of that scene, very few people will realize it. So where Vinod Khanna sir was lying down, there's a window behind it.
Right.
In the distance, there's a temple. Where Rishi Kapoor sir was lying, behind there's a window. There is a mosque. And where Amit ji is lying, there's a window. There is a church in the distance.
Yes,
oh my God! What a visionary Manmohan Desai. Like hats off to him. What he see. Eventually, na emotion से बड़ी कोई चीज नहीं होती. अगर आपका इमोशन राइट है तो हर चीज आपकी सही हो जाती है. अगर आपका इमोशन रॉन्ग है ना और आप टेक्निकली और परफेक्ट, it will not matter. It will not matter in the film.
Lovely. And throughout this conversation, Milap, I love it. I genuinely, I'm not saying this to flatter you for the sake of it, but I love it that you are still you're not spiteful about things. Not at all. No, because that happens, right? Because I'm telling you, we keep talking about Sandeep, Reddy, Vanga, and I've set up other filmmakers as well. When they get, spewed with hate or let's say whatever, there is a sense of spite that comes, and sometimes that shows in their films as well. Not necessarily with the topic, but in ways that you probably, can't anticipate. But you're not that, and I want to understand: is this a clarity, as you mentioned, it's older and wiser kind of a scenario, or is it more that you are very cognizant of the fact that no,
it's just people who surround you, who love you, they keep you grounded. So my wife Gauri, I have my son Mehan, I have my in-laws, my parents, my family, my best friends Shad, Randhava and Azaz, Ritesh. They keep me grounded. They make sure that I don't get carried away, right? And I'll tell you what, yeah, there is no point in hating anyone. The only person you have to blame for your failure is yourself, right? And the only person who can rise from that failure is yourself, right? So long as you understand that, you don't need to be vindictive or angry at other people, right? I genuinely would like to believe I have no enemies in this industry.
Yeah.
I may have some very good friends, some lesser, some acquaintances, but I think you go in the industry, you will not find someone who says कि मैं मिलाप का दुश्मन हूँ.
No.
I've tried very hard not to make enemies over here. I don't believe there are permanent enemies or friends. And my closest friends have been my closest friends for a long time.
Right.
They've been in my life. So like Satyameva Jayate 2 didn't work, right? But Monisha Advani, the producer, is still one of my closest friends. Mastii didn't work. Rongita Nandi is still one of my closest friends, right? So it's their goodness,
Yeah.
and it's their that they have still made friends with me after these 2 movies. John is still my friend. So I mean, there are people who always been there, Bhushanji, etc., who have been there for me. So they've always been there, and they'll always be there.
Fabulous, Milap. And now we just round it up in a while. But now, of course, we talk a little bit about Masti 4 again. Because I think, again, if there's nostalgia, there is so much that, that is. I mean, everybody wants to
Yeah.
see, despite the fact that, whatever otherwise people think about it. But I want to know from you that you mentioned it so wonderfully, and I'm sure that is probably going to be the case that people who love the first Masti are going to love Masti 4.
Yeah.
Right? But that is, of course, between the gap of 22, 23 years that we're talking about. Masti was 2003, if I'm not wrong.
2004.
2004, right. So 21 years of gap we're talking about. How much of the idea of adult comedies or sex comedies and the way they are perceived has, according to you, changed, or has it been pretty much on the same radar in terms of acceptance? Do you feel that?
It's the same, bro. The same jokes. Rosemary Marlowe.
Yeah.
My father-in-law used to crack it.
Yeah.
My father used to crack it. We've cracked it, right? So the point is, till there are men, women, sex,
Yeah.
wives, husbands, jokes on marriage, jokes on infidelity, jokes on masti, are always going to work, right? Whether it's here or it's abroad, you're going to always, these naughty adult comedies have always found their own audience. So it has never changed. Like, so one generation passes, the other generation comes, they continue the same thing. Only the difference is they started earlier than when we started it, right? So this genre is something that you go to a party, the person who gets the maximum laughs is one who cracks a non-veg joke,
Yeah.
right? That's what we call them. So those are the jokes that get the maximum laughter, giggles, the boys' locker room talk, etc. When women meet out for kitty parties and they gossip, right? All the jokes and humor comes out. So it's so like we always say about Masti कि Masti अपनी family के साथ देखो लेकिन अलग-अलग family member को अलग-अलग ले जाते हैं. So it's a genre that people have always enjoyed and loved. It has to be funny. It has to be entertaining. And I believe Masti 4 is a riot of laughter. It's mad. Like Induji to me the best compliment. So तूने मस्ती भी धमाल की तरह बनाई है.
Lovely.
So that was a great compliment coming from him. For him who's given his franchise to me.
Exactly.
That was a big compliment coming from him. So that really meant a lot when he said that to me. So I think people are going to have a blast on 21st November in the cinemas. You're going to laugh and laugh. So someone told me a funny thing that दीवानियत में तूने लोगों को रुलाया, मस्ती में तू हंसा के रुलाएगा. So you should get a meme that दीवानियत में ये वो director है जो हंसाता भी है रुलाता भी है.
Fabulous. And now, on a parting note, right now, it's an encapsulation of the entire conversation we had, and of course, what you have in store otherwise as well. Of course, Masti 4 is just around the release. In the next couple of weeks, we are seeing that. And then, of course, the
Tera Yaar Hoon Main, Akanksha Sharma, Aman, Indra Kumar,
that
Paresh.
is obviously out there, and I mean, we just hope that you keep getting more and more films, of course. What I want to know is that, as I mentioned, I'm encapsulating the conversation as well, that right now, after giving about 6 films, 7, 8 films, I think, in totality.
जाने का सही है, मस्ती ज़्यादा, सत्यमेव जयते, मरजावा, सत्यमेव जयते 2, दीवाने में 6th film, Masti 7th, and Tera Yaar Hoon Main will be my 8th film. Yeah.
Right, exactly. What I want to know is 8 films later, do you feel a little bit of, let's say, disappointed in a way that you still want to fight for your next film. Fight in a way that doesn't mention that, let's say X film doesn't work, and that probably leads to a certain kind of a lull, which happened in two instances, as you mentioned. After Jaane Kahan Se and afterwards Satyameva
Masti
Jayate.
is the two, yeah.
Satyameva Jayate too, exactly. So do you feel that, okay, you know what, now I've developed a certain kind of legacy, so to speak, that right now, let's say X film hasn't worked, Y hasn't worked, Z might or might not work, but I would still like to do films at my speed. I want to be quick with it. I want to tell more stories. I want to be. Do you feel that?
I hope that Deewaniyat would have done that. Because I tell you what, the victory of Deewaniyat is way more than the victory of Satyameva Jayate. Because Satyameva Jayate was still Bhushan Kumar, Sir, Nikhil Advani, John Abraham, Manoj Bajpayee. It was still a big film, right? And Deewaniyat was a complete, like I say, Lagan ki team thi, right? But there was no hope from anyone. And it's a director's film, right? And which to pull off this film, thanks to the support of Harsh, Sonam, and my producers Anshul, Raghav, right? But it's a film that, like I told Mohit, again I keep coming because Mohit told me I had a crazy year, right? Right? Like it was a crazy year where we like joined at the hip kind of thing. Like I told him, Mohit, now whatever happens life में, any film of us works, doesn't work, they say ये लड़का किसी के साथ भी ब्लॉकबस्टर दे सकता है, सैयारा दे सकता है, किसी को भी, he can be newcomers and do it. Today, hopefully people will say Milap can rise from a failure and fight back with an underdog, right? He has the potential. So I do hope this is a turning point in my career where every film can't work. Something may go up and down, but they will say, no, this guy can fight back and bounce back anytime. He has the talent and he has the potential. And this Mastii is a brand, it's a franchise, so it already has an advantage. Tera Yaar Hoon Main is one of the closest films to my heart. Like I think Indra Kumar and Akanksha Sharma are two of the most talented actors I have worked with. Like when you see the film, whether you like the film or not, my work or not, there is no chance that anyone will come out of the theatre and say Aman and Akanksha are not extraordinary.
Lovely.
They will come out and say, my God, these two are so talented. And for me, that will be the biggest victory of Tera Yaar Hoon Main. People come out and say Aman is terrific and Akanksha is terrific, because I genuinely believe that they are extraordinary in the film, both of them. And I hope that film works and gives two bigger new stars to the industry, and which will help our industry only.
Super. Fabulous. Thank you so much, Milap. This is really sporting of you to do this. Again, I mentioned I love the candor, I love the complete honesty, and I love the fact that you were still now probably it's just going to get bigger and bigger for you. Things are going to get bigger.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you for coming, and I had a ball talking with you. And I just wish all the best for Masti, for Tera Yaar Hoon Main, literally everything.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much. Pleasure being here. Thank you.